girls are not choosing at least physics in the same proportion as boys might. What might be the reasons for that?
Well, like I said, I just think they don't like it. There's a lot of hard maths in there that I think that they would rather not do. And that's not to say that there isn't hard stuff to do in biology and chemistry. There is, but it's not.
Why would girls not want to do hard maths any more than boys?
The research generally, people, they say that that's just a natural thing. I mean, I don't know. I can't say, I'm not an expert at that sort of thing. We're certainly not out there campaigning for more girls to do physics. We wouldn't do that, and I wouldn't want to do that, because I don't mind that there's only 16% of them taking. I mean, I want them to do what they want to do.
Catherine Burblesing joins us now, head teacher at Michaela School. Hello to you, Catherine. You will know, of course, there's been a lot of criticism about the comments that we have just heard you make to that committee yesterday. Are you guilty of perpetuating a stereotype that girls just don't like hard maths?
Well, we were talking specifically about our school. And so I'd spent 20 minutes talking about the reasons why girls across the country might not choose STEM subjects. And I gave a whole host of reasons, like not having role models. And I said that these things needed to be addressed within school communities. I believe at Michaela, we have addressed these things. They have a head of physics who is a woman. We, in 2019, with our Progress 8, we had the best maths results in the country. We also had the third best science department in the country. All of our children take double and triple science. Yes. They're extremely well taught and they have great behavior. And these are all the sorts of issues that I was saying, if you don't address these environmental and cultural issues, girls who are part of the sort of vulnerable groups will end up not choosing STEM subjects.
Right.
I then explained at Michaela, we have addressed these things and we have controlled for the environmental variabilities, which are an absolute issue and need to be addressed across the country.
Right, okay.
We have done very well here, which means that our biology and chemistry A-levels have got 65% girls. But it is still the case that in physics it's not.
Right.
And all children, girls and boys, when they don't take physics, they will say that they don't want to do the hard maths. They'd rather do biology. It doesn't mean that biology isn't hard, as I said.
No.
It is. It's
all right.
hard in different ways.
Well, let's.
And so,
Catherine, I'm going to have to interrupt you here because I want to ask you a few more questions before we open it up for discussion. Okay. It's just that when you listen to the evidence you gave yesterday, you seem to now be saying it is a problem that you are addressing. When I listened to what you said yesterday, you didn't seem to think it was an issue that fewer girls were doing or taking physics A-level. No, fair enough. That they were taking... You
haven't the 20 minutes before.
No.
So the point is...
I know, and you've just explained that. But you did say, you used the word natural, that you didn't necessarily think it was as natural for girls, perhaps, to do the hard maths and take physics as it was for boys. That will have alarmed people because you were then implying that actually girls naturally are not as able when it comes to numbers and maths as boys.
I didn't say able. I've never talked about able.
I said it's the implication of what you said by using the word natural.
No, but I was talking about choice. I was talking about what they choose, what they're interested in. I haven't talked about ability. There are great female physicists and mathematicians out there, and more power to them.
So why is it more natural? So why was it more natural for boys to take physics than girls?
So the evidence shows that girls, on average, are more empathetic and boys are more systematic. Now, that doesn't mean that there are no brilliant women who are very systematic and there are no boys who are very empathetic. Of course, there is a whole variety out there. But on average, that's how it works. So, you do have to look at the cultural issues, but I do think that there is a problem if we're thinking that our goal is to always have 50% girls and boys for every subject. Discrepancies do not mean necessarily that there is discrimination. Okay. Now, it's always important to look at discrepancies, as we have done, and then you need to address them. And we have addressed them. And when you control then for those variabilities within the environment, you can then look and think, well, perhaps their choice is genuine. And you want to make it so that all children are able to fulfill their potential.
All right.
I think it's wrong to seek exact representation.
All right.
But right.
Well, let me put that. Well, let me put that
encourage-
point to you, Liz. I mean, do you accept what Catherine is saying there, that it isn't necessarily desirable to have something like quotas or to push people, girls in this case, into particular areas unless they want to?
I think what we've just heard now, very interestingly, from Catherine Burblesing, is a description of what she does in her school. But she also has a role as social mobility czar. And when you look at the highest status subjects for education remain amongst the STEM subjects. So you have physics, you have mathematics, you have chemistry. I believe chemistry is equally as challenging when it comes to mathematics. And it really concerns me then that using the platform, the very public platform which she used in Parliament yesterday, played along to that cliche that sciences are not for young women. And I think it's in her role as social mobility czar that really this needs to be addressed. It's not a matter of looking at, say, 1 year in her school has 30% boys and 60%, 70% girls. That proportionately, the statistics of that doesn't matter. Overall, we should be making sure that, for social mobility terms, that everybody, whichever their sex, whatever their background, that they have access to those high-status subjects. We should also be looking at the status of those roles which are traditionally male, which also happen to be STEM, and raising the status of those activities which were traditionally female.
All right. Catherine, do you want to respond?
But I absolutely agree with everything that you've just said. I did not do the things that you're saying. I was asked specifically about my school, and I answered specifically about my school. I spent 20 minutes doing exactly what you're just saying and talking about how we need to increase the opportunities for girls across the country and the ways in which I thought we could do so. So I agree with you. You know, it's just that people like to selectively listen, and the media in particular like to selectively quote, and they completely ignored all the other stuff that I'd been talking about. And I was asked specifically about my school, and I back my girls. Those girls at 16, 17 who chose not to take physics, I think they're absolutely right not to have done so. And that's okay.
All right, well, let me ask Andy?
I think there's a wider point here, which is that why would Catherine Baldwin want to be in politics anymore? Why would she want to do this social mobility role when she, clearly at Michaela, which has given more opportunities to more deprived kids in that part of London than just about any other institution, private or public, when she can talk about her school and her experiences and, for better or for worse, taken out of context, clunky language, etc., has to come on a day later and clarify. And she must just think, why am I bothering? Why not going back to the school? Why not do something I'm good at? And we do risk, I think, losing good people from public service.
Well, Catherine, you'll want to respond.
Yeah, I mean, look, I was clunky in my language. I was just, and of course, the media like to just, take a particular thing and run with it. And I ought to have been thinking very carefully, and I should have been thinking they're press here and they're going to take it and they're going to want to use it against me. And the thing is, I'm not a politician. And so I just explain things as I see them. And I'm just quite natural about that. And I'm quite sincere. And I haven't planned what I'm going to say. And I'm not, I just don't think like that.
Barry?
And
no, that's fair enough. And that's an explanation, Catherine, about your style. But you have got this role too. Barry, do you accept that?
Yes, I do. I accept it totally. And I pay tribute to the work that she's done in Michaela. And I think she's right to say, look, I used clunky language, I'm not a politician. But I do think, because of her public role, she now has an obligation to get out there, as she's doing now, and to say, look, I wasn't saying what the newspapers have traduced me into saying. I was actually, I believe that this is a problem in society, and we need to be encouraging, just as I do at Michaela, need to be encouraging girls to take up stem cell subjects, to make sure they've got the appropriate role models, and really to use this barrier as a stepping stone, as a platform to be able to get the message out there more. And I hope that she'll take the opportunity to do that. It's not a matter of defending what she said. It's a matter of going out there and saying, look, I misspoke, or the way you've taken it has been wrong. Let me correct the record, and let me use this occasion as a means of doing that.
Damien?
Well, it feels like an extension of a family discussion, because my daughter's 15 and she's very into art subjects like history and English, but is thinking seriously about doing
And what are you
physics.
saying to her?
Well, she's the one who's brought up doing physics at A-level, which we'd be very supportive of. But I think we shouldn't, however it happens, we shouldn't get drawn into a debate where it sounds like physics and maths are more subjects for boys than girls, for anyone who has a passion for doing it. And what's interesting interesting when you look at the figures for STEM, people who do STEM subjects at degree level, is more girls than boys do. So clearly the girls that do STEM subjects at A level fly at them and then go on to be more likely to go to university and take a degree in that subject. So I think we should see that as encouragement for more girls to take STEM subjects at A level too.
Catherine, what do you make of what you've heard here?
Yeah, well, I mean, I agree with the reason I didn't have to go to the select committee. I went to the select committee to say, look, these are the ways in which we've made a success of biology and chemistry. I gave them advice about what I thought schools should do in order to increase representation of girls in STEM subjects and the ways we have succeeded at that. That's why I went there. You're right about my clunky language. And unfortunately, the media don't talk about that 20 minutes, They just go and they do one thing and they run with it.
No, well, as you know, we can't show everything all of the time. It was an important bit, and some scientists criticise the language, as you say, that you used. And there will be some people who will think it sort of masks what you really think, which you have explained, certainly in terms of Michaela School. In terms of the role of being Social Mobility Commissioner, Liz, do you think that is a good enough explanation, as far as you're concerned, to pursue the sorts of goals you clearly think Catherine should be doing?
I have a degree of sympathy with Catherine in the sense that she obviously strongly feels that her words were taken out of context. But for any of us in public life, and she has accepted a public role as being chair of the Social Mobility Commission, is that we do think about how our words are going to be taken. And this is a very sensitive subject. And many of us, people who have worked in education, have over decades been endeavouring to encourage more and more women into science subjects. And although this was a throwaway remark, possibly, I would beg the question that this was such a sensitive subject that it isn't just a matter for one school and the focus on one institution and what she has fantastically achieved there. This was bound to be taken in a wider context.
All right, final word, Catherine, briefly, and then thank you.
Oh, well, I mean, yes, I would just say that I spent 20 minutes talking about the whole country. There was a tiny little bit where they asked me specifically about my school, and I told them specifically what we do here and what I thought about those girls in physics here. I suppose I could have said at that point, but I'm not talking about the whole country. But you try to, but people misquote you. My whole life has been dedicated to ensuring that all children have access to fulfilling their potential, whether that's girls in science or ethnic minorities and a whole variety of subjects, inner city kids, poor kids, disadvantaged kids. That's what I'm all about. That's why I went to the select committee yesterday. I wish that my career that spans over 20 years would count for something when people hear something and they think, oh, does that sound like Catherine Burblesing? Or maybe I should ask the question first.
Well, and at least, Catherine, you've had today a platform to talk about it more widely. Catherine Burblesing, thank you very much. Liz, we saw you briefly in the headlines talking about lying in politics in the Commons chamber. You've also been writing about it. Let's take a look at this in Politics Home. It's high time we make willful lying by politicians a criminal offence. How exactly would it work in practical terms?